It's funny, when you requested this deep dive on I Want It That Way, I knew we were in for a fun one.
Yeah.
It's one of those songs, right? It instantly takes you back.
Absolutely. But what's so fascinating about this song in particular is that it goes beyond just being a 90s classic.
Right.
Your sources actually dig into its cultural impact, which I'm ready to unpack.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it's one thing to like a song, but I Want It That Way was a straight-up phenomenon. Like, the outline mentions it topping charts in over 25 countries. That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty unheard of, even for big names today.
Yeah.
Part of it, of course, was just the Backstreet Boys being at their peak in '99. But this song transcended just being a hit. It became an anthem.
You came to us with sources about I Want It That Way. Not just the song, but its place in history. So we're going beyond the surface-level nostalgia here. Let's unpack why this particular song at that particular moment became such a phenomenon.
1999 was interesting. The internet was changing how people found music, but it was also still the MTV era, TRL. Music videos mattered more than ever.
And that video. So iconic. But yeah, your point about MTV is interesting, because back then you couldn't just curate your own playlist. Everyone heard the same song, saw the same video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you had this shared experience forming around certain songs. And for those of us who were teens then, well, those shared experiences, especially through music, they become formative.
Okay, but how did this one song break through? Was it just being in the right place at the right time, or was there something more?
It's a combination of factors. But the song itself tapped into something universal, that feeling of longing, of desire. It's relatable no matter where you're from.
It's true. Like, you hear those opening chords, and even if you weren't a diehard Backstreet Boys fan, there's this feeling. Plus, there was something about that blend of pop and R&B.
Don't forget the harmonies.
Yeah.
It was catchy, but with a yearning quality that just worked. And you can hear its influence in music even today.
It's like that story from one of your sources about hearing it in gym class. When those opening chords hit, everything stopped. Everyone knew the words. That feeling, that's powerful stuff.
Music creates a sense of community, of belonging. And when it hits you at the right time in your life, it becomes more than just a song. It becomes a memory, a feeling, a marker of who you were then.
And speak of markers, I Want It That Way left its mark on pop culture in a big way. It wasn't just a hit. It was a global phenomenon.
And to fully grasp that impact, we need to go beyond just the catchy tune. The outline mentions it topping the charts in over 25 countries. Think about that reach from the US to Europe to Asia. It transcended cultural boundaries.
Why do you think it resonated across so many cultures?
It was more than a catchy tune. The song tapped into those universal themes of longing and connection that resonate with people no matter where they're from. And that simple yet effective aesthetic from the music video, the guys in their matching outfits, the wind machine, the dramatic lighting, it became synonymous with the era.
You couldn't escape it. Plus, those harmonies were complex layered. It wasn't simplistic musically.
Exactly. The song was approachable, but it had this musical depth that probably helped it cross over in different markets. It wasn't just bubblegum pop.
You know what else is fascinating? This song is still so recognizable even to people who weren't even born when it came out. It pops up in movies, TV shows. It's like it never really left our cultural consciousness.
It's become a shorthand for a certain kind of romantic nostalgia. Think about it. If you hear those opening chords in a movie, you instantly get a sense of the mood, the tone, maybe even a little chuckle at the throwback.
Speaking of throwbacks, and this is from the outline, we can't forget the misunderstood lyrics thing. Like, come on, is it "You are my fire, the one desire," or what?
Right. That's one of the most debated song lyrics of all time. And you know what? The Backstreet Boys themselves have even weighed in on it, and it hasn't exactly cleared things up.
It's like they knew they had a mystery on their hands. Honestly, it just adds to the intrigue. But what does all of this mean? Why are we still talking about a song from 1999 like it's brand new?
It's because it captured something universal about the human experience. That feeling of wanting something so badly, that yearning for connection, it's timeless. And the fact that it was wrapped up in this perfect storm of 90s pop culture, well, that just made it even more potent.
I'm also realizing that even the music video itself, which again, iconic, played a role in all of this.
Absolutely. That simple yet effective aesthetic. The guys in their matching outfits, the wind machine, that dramatic lighting, it became synonymous with the era. You couldn't escape it. And you know what? They didn't even need fancy effects or elaborate storylines. It was just them singing their hearts out, and that was enough.
Actually, that might be the most 1999 thing about it all. Less was more. So where does that leave I Want It That Way today after all these years? Is it just a nostalgia trip, or is there more to it?
It's definitely more than just nostalgia. It goes deeper than that.
Deeper how?
Well, think of it this way. This song has become a cultural touchstone. It's a reference point that we use to understand not only the music of the 90s, but also our own experiences.
Okay, I can see that. It's like how certain scents can transport you back to a specific time and place. This song does that for a whole generation.
Exactly. And even for people who weren't there for the first wave, it's seeped into their consciousness through osmosis. They hear it in movies at parties. It's become part of the fabric of pop culture.
It's true, you can't escape it. But why this song? We've established it was catchy, well-timed, etc. But tons of songs have those qualities.
It's the emotional core. This goes back to what I was saying about universal themes. That longing for connection, that desire for something more. Those feelings are timeless. Whether you're a teenager experiencing those emotions for the first time or an adult looking back on those years, the song still holds meaning.
And this is where I think knowing the context behind a song actually changes how you hear it. Like, I can't hear "I Want It That Way" now without thinking about all this. The boy band era, MTV, the global reach.
It adds layers, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a catchy tune anymore. You understand the cultural weight it carries. It becomes sort of time capsule of that late 90s sound.
Okay, so we've got this perfect storm of factors. The song itself, the cultural moment, the emotional resonance. But isn't there also something to be said for how it was made?
You mean the actual production?
Yeah, like those harmonies, the way the vocals are layered, even the instruments they used. It was pop, but it wasn't cheap.
It's true. The production was top-notch. They worked with Max Martin, who is basically a hit-making genius, and it shows. The song is deceptively complex, musically speaking.
Okay, break that down for me. What makes it musically complex? Because on the surface, it's a pretty simple song.
Sure. For one, the chord progression is interesting. It's not your typical verse-chorus structure. It plays around with major and minor chords, which adds to that feeling of yearning. Then there's the vocal arrangement. The harmonies are tight and intricate. And even the instrumental track itself, while being very 90s pop, has these little flourishes.
See, I wouldn't have even picked up on all that. It just goes to show you how much goes into making a song that sticks with people.
Absolutely. And I think those details, even if the listener isn't consciously aware of them, contribute to the overall impact. It's like you might not be able to explain why you like a song, but you just know it works.
It's funny, we haven't even gotten to the lyrics that much, and usually that's what people focus on. But with this song, it almost feels secondary to everything else we've talked about.
It's true. It's almost like the lyrics are more about creating a mood or a feeling than telling a specific story.
And maybe that's part of the appeal, too, because it leaves space for the listener to project their own experiences onto the song.
Exactly. And that open-endedness, combined with the catchy melody and the cultural context we've been discussing, makes it ripe for reinterpretation and use in other media. Think about it. This song has been featured in countless movies, TV shows, commercials.
Don't forget all the memes.
Exactly. It's constantly being recontextualized and reintroduced to new audiences.
So it's like this self-perpetuating cycle of pop culture relevance.
Precisely. And that's something that few songs, even massive hits, manage to achieve. "I Want It That Way" has transcended its time and become a part of our collective musical DNA.
Okay, so we've talked about how the song itself was structured, the cultural moment it was released in, and the impact it had. But what about the legacy? How has "I Want It That Way" influenced music that came after it?
It's funny. We've been talking this whole time about how iconic this song is, but it feels like it's bigger than just the Backstreet Boys at this point,
What's fascinating here is that you're right, it's transcended its original context. In a way, "I Want It That Way" created a template.
A template for what? For that blend of pop sensibility, R&B influences, those big vocal harmonies. It became a blueprint for a certain type of pop song. It was huge in the early 2000s. You can hear echoes of it in everything from NSYNC to early Britney Spears.
Oh, totally. It's like that era of pop music had its own distinct sound, and "I Want It That Way" was one of the songs that really solidified it.
And that sound, even with all its evolution, is still influencing pop music today. Even if some of the artists now weren't even born when the original came out, it's part of the DNA of pop.
That's wild to think about. Okay, so we've covered a lot. The cultural context, the song structure, the global impact, the legacy. Where does this leave us with "I Want It That Way"? Is it just a catchy tune that got lucky, or is there something more?
There's always an element of chance in any hit song, but this one endures because it tapped into something universal. That feeling of longing, of wanting something you can't quite articulate that resonates across time and cultures.
So it's more than just a song, it's a feeling.
Precisely. It's a feeling wrapped up in a perfectly crafted pop package, amplified by the cultural moment and made timeless by its emotional core. And I think that's something we're celebrating. It reminds us of the power of music to connect with us on such a deep level.
It really makes you appreciate the intentionality behind it all, like the Backstreet Boys and Max Martin set out to make a hit song, but they ended up creating something that has resonated with people for over 2 decades.
And that's the magic of music. Sometimes a song comes along that captures a moment, a feeling, an entire generation's zeitgeist. It connects with us on a visceral level. We don't just hear it, we feel it.
And isn't it wild how those feelings can come rushing back, even years later, just by hearing a few familiar chords?
Absolutely. Music has this incredible ability to transport us back in time. It's like a sonic time machine that can evoke memories, emotions, and even forgotten dreams.
That's beautifully put. And on that note, maybe the next time you hear I Want It That Way, it'll be more than just a catchy tune. It'll be a reminder of a particular time and place, a feeling, a shared cultural experience, and maybe even a little piece of yourself that you thought was lost to time. Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening for those songs that make you feel something real.